All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that, well, it pretty much breaks one of the most basic rules of reality. You know, the idea that everything has to come from somewhere? Yeah, this throws that right out the window. We're talking about the Bootstrap Paradox.
So let's just jump right in with a question. And it seems really simple. Who actually wrote Beethoven's Fifth Symphony? I mean, the answer's in the name, right? It's got to be Beethoven. But what if it wasn't? What if that incredible, iconic piece of music had no author at all? Okay, so picture this. You're a time traveler, you're a massive Beethoven fan, and you decide to take the sheet music for his Fifth Symphony back in time to meet the man himself. But when you get there, something's wrong. You show him the music and Beethoven has no idea what it is. He's never seen it, never heard of it. So in a panic, to make sure this masterpiece doesn't just vanish from history, you hand him the sheet music. He takes it, copies it note for note, and publishes it. So now who wrote it? Seriously, it wasn't Beethoven, right? He just copied it. And it wasn't you, the time traveler, you just brought it from a future where it already existed. The music, it's like it just popped into existence from absolutely nowhere.
And that mind-bending puzzle, that is the absolute core of the Bootstrap Paradox. What we're looking at here is a closed causal loop. An object or a piece of information gets passed from the future to the past, and by doing that, it becomes its own origin. Think about that. There's no starting point. There's no Big Bang moment of creation for it. It just exists.
And this is where things get really, philosophically heavy. I mean, just stop and think about it for a second. Everything we know has a beginning, a point of origin. A tree grows from a seed. A book is written by an author. We are born. But a bootstrapped object? It just skips that whole process. It's perfectly described as an entity that simply is, without ever having had to become.
All right, now to really wrap our heads around why the Bootstrap Paradox is so unique and so weird, we need to make something super clear. Not all time travel paradoxes are created equal. So let's kind of pull this one out and see how it's different from the others you've probably heard of. And right here, this is the key distinction. Most of the time travel paradoxes you hear about, like the grandfather paradox, are all about contradictions. You know, you do something in the past that makes your present impossible, and the timeline just shatters. But the Bootstrap Paradox, it's not like that at all. It's not a problem of contradiction, it's a problem of origin. The loop is actually perfectly stable, perfectly consistent. The only spooky thing is, it has no beginning.
So let's just lay it all out. You've got the Bootstrap Paradox, which asks the question, where on earth did this thing come from? Then you have the famous grandfather paradox, which is all about what happens if I change the past and create a contradiction. And then there's the predestination paradox, which is more about fate, asking, can I change the future, only to find out you are the one who caused it all along? The big takeaway here is that bootstrap loops are totally fine, logically speaking. They're consistent. They just have this really unsettling quality of having no creator.
And once you know what to look for, you start seeing this paradox everywhere in pop culture. I mean, the classic example, right? Back to the Future. Marty McFly shreds Johnny B. Goode at the school dance in 1955. Marvin Berry hears it, gets his cousin Chuck on the phone and says, you know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this. So, Chuck Berry then invents the very song that Marty learned from him in the future. So again, who actually wrote the song? But it's not always an object or a song. Sometimes it's something way more subtle, something internal. Take Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry is about to be defeated when a powerful Patronus charm saves him. Later, when he travels back in time, he realizes that the person who cast that spell was him. He could do it because he'd already seen himself do it. The confidence, the belief that it was possible, that's the bootstrapped object here. It's incredible.
And you can't talk about this stuff without bringing up the Terminator. This is a huge one. How does the evil AI Skynet get created? Well, scientists at Cyberdyne Systems find the wreckage of a Terminator, a cyborg sent back from the future by Skynet, and they reverse engineer it. The very technology that gives birth to Skynet is a future product of Skynet itself. It's this perfect and frankly terrifying closed loop of technology.
Okay, fiction is one thing, but could something like this happen in the real world, in our universe? Well, this is where the conversation gets really interesting, because the Bootstrap Paradox basically sets up a cosmic title fight between two absolute giants of science.
In one corner, weighing in with the entire fabric of spacetime, you have Einstein's general relativity. And its equations, they kind of whisper, yeah, these loops, they could happen. But in the other corner, you have the undisputed champion of cause and effect, the Second Law of Thermodynamics. And it is screaming from the ropes, no way, absolutely impossible.
Here's the deal. According to general relativity, it's theoretically possible for these really bizarre structures in space-time to exist called closed time-like curves, or CTCs. The best way to think of them is like a road through space-time that instead of going straight just loops back to its own starting point. If you could find one and travel along it, you'd pop out in your own past. It's the perfect physical setup for a bootstrap paradox.
But then, thermodynamics steps into the ring. And its big move is the second law, which is one of the most fundamental rules of the universe. It basically says things wear out, things decay. Entropy, which is just a fancy word for disorder or randomness, always goes up. You know, a hot cup of coffee gets cold, it never just heats itself back up. An ice cube melts, an egg breaks, but it doesn't unbreak. This law is basically the arrow of time. It's why time seems to only move forward.
So let's apply that law to our paradox. Imagine it's not sheet music, but a physical thing, like a pocket watch, trapped in a loop. It's passed from future to past, again and again and again. Well, every time it makes that trip, it's going to get a little older, right? A few more scratches, a bit more rust, its entropy is increasing. So after enough loops, that watch would just crumble into dust. And if it turns to dust, the loop is broken. But wait, if the loop is destined to break eventually, then how could it have been a stable, eternal loop in the first place? It's a huge problem.
So if our two biggest theories of physics are at a stalemate, where do we go from here? Well, we have to go deeper, because this paradox isn't just about physics. It forces us to ask some really tough questions about the nature of reality itself, things like cause and effect, and maybe most importantly, free will. You see, for a bootstrap paradox to really work, you pretty much have to accept an idea called the block universe. And the concept is kind of wild. It says that the past, the present, and the future, they all exist simultaneously. They're all equally real. Imagine all of time as a finished movie reel. We're just experiencing it frame by frame, so it feels like it's flowing. But in reality, the beginning, middle, and end are already there, all at once. Okay, but if the whole movie of time is already written, what does that mean for our choices? For free will? Well, inside one of these loops, free will is basically an illusion. It's gone. That time traveler giving the music to Beethoven, they aren't choosing to do it. They have to do it. Their action is just a gear turning in a cosmic machine, a part of a circuit that has always existed and will always exist. They have no other choice.
So is that it? Are we just stuck with these deterministic, will-crushing loops? Or is there a way out? Have scientists and philosophers figured out some kind of escape hatch? Let's take a look at a few of the potential solutions.
Okay, so there are three main contenders. First, you have something called Novikov's self-consistency principle. This basically says that the laws of physics will forbid you from ever creating a contradiction. So no grandfather paradox. But a nice self-consistent bootstrap loop, that's totally allowed. Then there's the many worlds idea. This one says that when you go back in time, you actually just create a whole new branching universe, a new timeline. So the loop is broken because it's not a loop anymore. And then there's a really strange one from quantum mechanics, which suggests the uncaused object could have blinked into existence as a 1 in a trillion random quantum fluctuation, and the time loop just keeps it stable.
So let's focus on the two big ones, because they give us this incredible, almost impossible choice about the nature of reality. On the one hand, with Novikov's principle, you get one single consistent timeline, but you have to throw free will out the window. On the other hand, with many worlds, you get to keep your free will. Every choice you make is real. But the price is that you have to accept that an infinite number of parallel universes are being created constantly. So, which one would you pick? A single reality with no choice? Or infinite realities where every choice matters?
When you get right down to it, the reason the bootstrap paradox is so fascinating is because it's like a crowbar wedged into our understanding of reality. It takes our simple, common-sense idea of time, that it's a straight line that flows from A to B, and it suggests that this might just be a comfortable illusion, a simplified view of a universe that is profoundly stranger than we can imagine.
And so we're left with that one massive, deeply unsettling question that sits at the very center of this whole thing. Our entire way of thinking is built on the idea that everything has a cause, that everything has a beginning. But what if that's just not true? What if some things, an idea, a song, a pocket watch, maybe even the entire universe, simply are and always were, without ever needing to begin?